A big part in the tactics of winning tennis is what goes on up here, what goes on between your ears. When you're out there, you're really playing another fellow and his mind. And sometimes it's the better mind that wins the tennis match. To find out what mental toughness is really all about, let's go to a fellow that really knows, and that's Arthur Ashe.
Mental toughness is an essential part of everybody's approach to playing the game. The ones who seem to be winners seem to be more mentally tough than anybody else. I think there are two things to remember as far as mental toughness is concerned. One is preparation, and the second thing is experience. You cannot replace the two, and you can't cheat. The more you prepare, the more you sacrifice before you start to play, the better you're going to feel when the umpire says play. And obviously, the more matches you've played in competitive situations, the more experience you're going to have in having yourself down 4-5 in the second set, 1 fault. Experience may pull that through for you. When playing a total stranger, you have to find out what he can do, but possibly more importantly, what he cannot do. So when you're warming up in that 5-minute period before the match starts, hit every conceivable shot you can think of to every conceivable shot he may have to hit. Trying to decide who serves first is not as easy as just flipping a racket and saying up or down. You're not only spinning for serve, you're also spinning to decide which side you're going to start on. So think of both of those things before you make up your mind. There are about 4 things you should keep in mind when trying to decide whether or not you want to serve first. First and foremost is how nervous you are. If you're really nervous, receive first if you can. If the sun's in your face on a particular side, you may want to opt for your opponent to start serving on that side. If you don't like serving with the wind at your back, well, you may take that into consideration. And most courts, because of runoff or rain, are slanted, one end to another or one side to another. And when you get into the match itself, the first 4 games should be a time for you to find out what he likes to do in certain situations. You should get your first serve in, make as few errors as possible, but take advantage of any situations that arise. What can you see from your opponent's serve? Well, after you've seen him serve for 3 or 4 times, keep in mind always that all of us are creatures of habit. What does that mean? That means that we're going to serve that serve that we feel most comfortable with. And we're going to serve to that part of the court that we feel most comfortable serving to. So, if you can somehow manage to catalog where your opponent serves and whether or not he serves down the middle or to your backhand at 40-30 or advantage in and out, those 2 situations can tell you a lot about where his favorite serves are going to go. All players, from professional players down to the novice, are afraid to hit certain shots. That goes for Bjorn Borg himself. So your opponent undoubtedly will have quite a few shots that he's afraid to hit. Find out what they are. And when you do find out what they are, don't hammer away at those weaknesses time and time again, but use that when you can most gain from it. For instance, John Newcomb, whenever he had you down 30-40 in a game point after the score was 2-all, that is never early in a set, but 2-all, 3-all, 3-4, whatever, if he had you down 30-40 and you were serving and you hit or committed a fault, he would always move over to the alley to try to tell you in effect, aha, I'm about to break your serve, and I'm going to force you to hit the ball to my forehand. You know I've got one of the best forehands in the world. Now, what are you going to do about it? But he would save that incident for the time when he could most gain from it. That is, he wouldn't waste it when the score was 0-0 in the first or second or third game. He would use it when he really wanted to use it. So he left you guessing throughout the whole match as to when he was going to run around his backhand and hit a forehand. If you find yourself against a much stronger player, you have to, first of all, negate that feeling of inferiority that you're going to naturally have. That's not easy to do. Usually, these stronger players bring out the best in your game because, one, they usually hit harder, and two, they get more balls in the court. That's what I want you to do immediately. Get more balls in the court, which is another way of saying make fewer errors. When you're playing against a weaker player, and the match is over and you've won, you want him to come away from the match thinking, gee, I'll never beat that guy. That's the impression you want to leave. And the way to do that is just to play good, solid tennis. You shouldn't do anything that smacks of gamesmanship, that borders on cheating or trying to take special advantage. Just good, solid, high-percentage tennis so that when the match is over and you've won, the other guy thinks, I never had a chance. Everybody gets nervous sometime in a match, and everybody gets afraid sometime in a match, or many matches. You want to feel nervous and slightly edgy before the competition, but once you get into it, it disappears because you really love to play. And part of the reason you love to play is because it does make you nervous. You get nervous because the consequences of winning or losing mean something to you. So remember, everybody's going to feel nervous and a little afraid. But the key to overcoming this early on in the match is to be as prepared as you can. Everybody gets tired playing tennis, and there are two ways to look at helping you avoid fatigue or lessen the effects of fatigue. One is, what do you do before the match starts? And secondly, what do you do once a match has started? 10 to 15 minutes before your match starts, you should drink about a glass full of some liquid. I suggest something like Gatorade or one of those electrolyte solutions diluted to about 1/3 strength. That helps to raise your water level, and you'll get off to a good start. During the middle of a match, you want to take sips of this diluted electrolyte solution every time you change ends. That's very important. Don't wait until you are really thirsty and then gulp down a big glass full of whatever you're drinking. That's not the way to do it. Do it gradually every time you change ends. In a place like Arizona, New Mexico, Southern California, where it's very hot and very dry, you wind up sweating without realizing it, and you lose a lot of liquids, and all of a sudden you're dehydrated and were given no warning. It's even more important in those areas because you don't sweat very much. But look, bottom line is, no matter what the weather conditions, if you feel, for whatever reason, that you really had enough and you're about to give up, stop. Tennis is secondary. Just stop, tell your opponent, the umpire, the referee, sorry, I can't make it today. My life's more important than winning this tennis match. Let's talk about temper for a second. Everybody gets upset. They're not playing well if you think you got a bad call or whatever. And the tendency is to get mad. And let me tell you what my tennis mentor told me a long time ago. He reminded me of that phrase that those whom the gods wish to destroy, they first make mad. So, if you want to destroy yourself, that is lose a match, well then get mad. You know, if you want to keep your temper, keep your wits about you, continue to figure out why you're not playing so well or things are not going your way, keeping a sane approach to things, then obviously I think you'll have a better chance to get out of the jam you find yourself in. Confidence in yourself, realizing that everybody has momentary slumps, realizing that usually in a match, when you get mad and you make an error or lose a point, you're liable to miss and lose the next 2 points. That even happens in professional tennis. Those rare professional players who really get mad and who cannot control their anger, they lose points in bunches, not just singular points, but 1, 2, 3 of them. So don't get mad. And if you really can't help getting mad, play something else. Okay, what do you do if you're having a bad day or a couple of bad days? Well, you should go back to your original game plan. What did you plan to do against this opponent or the one you played yesterday, or what are you going to do against your opponent tomorrow? Always start with your game plan. And when you get in the midst of a match, you find that things are not going well, change your plan. That's simple. But if your execution is faulty, then you have to go back to the basics of tennis. Three things you should always keep in mind while practicing. One is take practice just as seriously as you would take a match. Number two, don't practice with 3 balls. Get at least a dozen balls. Third, it is much better for you to practice well, intensely for 1 hour on specific things than to just fiddle around for 3 hours. Everybody should take lessons if you're just starting out, and you should continue to take an occasional lesson once you become an intermediate player. All of a sudden you wonder, gee, why is my backhand not going well? Or why can't I hit it down the line? Or what happened to my volley? Take a lesson. The pro can tell you in 2 minutes what you've been trying to figure out for the last month.
All those tips from Arthur Ashe on the mental game can help you just as much as having a big forehand, good volley, or a great serve.